There we go. Welcome back, everyone. And let's begin by going straight into the superpower state. So take a deep breath and either close your eyes or open, whichever you prefer. And go into your superpower state however you normally do that. So by repeating your word or phrase, or using your anchor, or by focusing in on everything you love and appreciate about your subject. Allow your heart to open, that expansion feeling in your chest, allowing that light or energy to shine out from you. Very good. And then allow that light or energy to fill each of the 50 trillion cells that make up your body. Love each cell just for existing. And imagine each cell being able to produce that same light, that same energy, that same power. Loving unconditionally. And of course, love those cells, whether they're able to do that or not. And then allow that light or energy to fill yourself as a child at any age, that little you. Love that child just for existing. No judgment, no expectations, just love. And then allow that light or energy to overflow from that little you and fill your whole childhood, shining that light into any darkness there may be, filling everything, everyone, every circumstance, every event, every experience, shining this light into all of it, loving it all anyway, feeling the power of that. Like a little superhero. Very good. Good job. And now allow that light or energy to overflow and fill everyone who's on the call today. All those who are on camera today, all those who are off camera, loving each one just for existing. Very, very good. Good job, everybody. All right, so you can open your eyes if you have them closed, and let's check in with each person, find out how you're doing. So Lisa, you're first up on my screen. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Yeah, Wave Your Wand Wednesday. Wow.
Yeah.
This is from their Superpower book, and I found page 69, and it was the combination of remaining in a state of unconditional love and following what feels good in the moment is what allows synchronicity to play out effectively and lead you to your goal in the easiest, least resistant way. This does not mean there is only one path to what you want, and if you miss that opportunity, you will never get what you want. There will always be another route, but following what feels good is the fastest, easiest route. Doing what you feel you should do instead of what feels good may mean taking a much longer detour on the way to manifestation of your desire. And then it's how you feel most of the time that determines what you're creating and attracting in your life.
Right, perfect. So thank you very much for sharing that, Lisa. And of course, when I wrote that book, it was before we discovered the childhood memories piece, but it still stands. So you still, and in fact, our approach is one of the main reasons we're changing those childhood memories is to enable us to live from a state, from that empowered state of feeling good all the time, or at least most of the time, and being in alignment with more of what feels good. So thank you very much for sharing that. I nearly said for shining that, and for shining yourself. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Did you have any questions today?
Oh, when I was doing, this is funny. This is going to crack you. So when I was doing the state with you guys, the love state just now. Okay, so I saw this ginormous mailbox. It just appeared to me. And then I walked in as a child and I had these giant checks of my money. It was so funny.
Nice.
That was funny. So I started laughing to myself. I thought I'd share that because it was hilarious. But it felt fun.
Thank you for sharing. And not just funny, but fantastic. Very good. Yes. And so, of course, one of the opportunities with that kind of experience, when we have those thoughts or visions or signs or anything like that, one of the great opportunities with those is to notice any doubts. Notice anything negative that comes up, not to push it away, but to address it and change it. And that's one of the big differences between the regular sort of law of attraction stuff and what we do, is that you can notice when you think about your vision, or you know what you want, or you have an experience like that, or and for everybody else listening to it as well, notice what happens inside you when you, because of course, as you say it, we've got a picture of it. Each of us has our own picture of it. And as you hear that, notice what happens inside you. Do I feel, oh, that's not fair, I don't have that? Or do I feel, oh, that's ridiculous? Or do I feel, oh, but it doesn't mean anything? Whatever's there is going to be different for different people. And so notice it, and instead of pushing it away, you can do the allowing. So just allow it to be there without judgment and without needing to change it. And then find those references and change them so that you are able to have an experience like that, or think of your dream or your goal, or say your affirmations or whatever that may be. And there's no doubt, there's no resistance. It's like, yeah, of course. So thank you, Lisa, for that. That's a great opportunity.
When you're speaking, it's one of those mailboxes when you walk in. I've never seen that before, but that's so funny. But I just saw like Vegas lights, and they're like, going back and forth, like flickering, like a Christmas thing.
Nice.
So I made it funny. It was fun.
Very good.
Super fun.
Very good. And as long as there's all good feelings around it, that's fantastic. Good job, you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And thank you for your contributions here. We really appreciate them. And Janine, yay, lovely to see you back. How are you today?
Oh, did you just unmute me? Or
I did. No, I just unmuted you.
Hello.
How are you today?
Good, much better than yesterday.
Yes. Oh, good, good. And do you have any questions or anything today?
Well, a question I just put in the chat for Steve.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some interesting things of my own I might be interested in targeting, but I'm not very honed in on the target at this point. The question, though, is just a curiosity about how you would explain shadow work, because I've heard that a lot at the moment. There's a lot of people saying, yeah, law of attraction doesn't work, you need to address the shadow, and like I have an idea of what that means, but is addressing the shadow what we're doing by addressing our negative programming from our childhood memories, or is it something a bit more expansive or fancy than that?
Very good question. Very good question. And so the way I see it, so I haven't got experience with shadow work. I know about it, but I don't know a lot about the techniques or the way it works. I know it exists, and I've had a little bit of information on it. For me, anytime you spend in a negative state, it's okay, but it's, and this is one of the differences also between what we do and now eutaptics or faster EFT. This is one of the differences, and one of the reasons, one of the changes we've made is that any experience, any amount of time you're spending inside a negative memory or a negative emotion, focusing on that, it's okay, but what you're doing in real time is pumping stress chemicals into your system every moment you are thinking about it or focusing on it. So like I say, I'm not quite sure of the techniques of shadow work. But if it involves anything about feeling negative emotions, you're pumping stress chemicals into your system, which again is okay, except that it makes it harder and harder to pull yourself out of that state. So what we find, but they're right in that just focusing on the positive and ignoring the negative is also, of course, it's just pushing down it's a pressure cooker that's going to eventually overboil in some way. So this allowing technique. So first of all, unconditional love. So if you're loving, so you look at the negative, you look at the shadow, the dark spots, and you shine light into them by loving them, not by trying to change them or making them, trying to push them away. If you are able to love the shadow exactly as it is and without needing it to change, that's empowering, because as you're feeling the love, you're producing feel-good chemicals, right? Instead of stress chemicals. So that really is the aim, one of the main aims of the superpower. Now, it's not easy to just do that, which is why the practicing, why the conditioning and the learning and developing that skill. But with the new allowing technique, what we can do now is allow the shadow or whatever that part of you is, just allow it to be there, but without climbing into it, without it needing to be, without wearing it. You can just allow it to be there and focusing in on the physical sensation rather than the meaning keeps those stress chemicals down. So one of our main methods of operating is doing whatever we can to keep the level of stress chemicals down and the level of feel-good chemicals up, so that we don't lose control and end up floundering about in the negative stuff, in the stress chemicals. So the allowing technique is like a way of getting to the point where you're then able to love that part of you, love that shadow, and then you can change the references. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good.
Just a couple of, I'm going to jump in with a couple of other random thoughts, but when you talk about shadow, if we see shadow as this metaphorical thing that we're using, metaphorical language about whatever we're creating in these neural pathways in our brain. But if you are talking about doing shadow work on the shadow side of us, and shadow has become this this entity that is existing within us, then we're buying into kind of a victimhood mentality that there's something outside of us or within us that's actually controlling us. Is that so? I would if doing shadow work is just code language or metaphorical language for we're changing neural pathways, we're changing information and data in neural pathways, that's great. But if we buy into the notion that we have a shadow side to us and that shadow side is controlling us, then I think that we're off a track. So
yeah, it's so interesting because so many people are working on themselves, and there's so many methods floating around, and it's very it can be, well, it takes drilling down to understand what is actually somebody talking about, because in my world that makes sense. I've got these shadow pieces in my world that need to be addressed and shifted, but that idea of also buying into this victim idea that, oh, there's this shadow this dark shadow that's kind of lurking that I have to but
that's right.
What do people mean when they're doing shadow work? So yeah,
that is such a great clarification, and thank you, Steve, for pointing that out as well, because an analogy has come to me where if you find that you've got dirty patches on your carpet, well, you can't deny those dirty patches are there. They're there. Of course they're there. And you need to acknowledge and accept them to begin with, but it doesn't mean you can't clean them. It doesn't mean you have to stay with a dirty carpet. You can do it, or you can not do it if you choose not to. We are still completely in control, shadow or no shadow. It's we control the shadow, but we only control the shadow once we're able to be in that empowered state, and we're able to allow it, acknowledge it, and then change those references. How does that sound?
Yeah, that's good. The tricky part sometimes.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And hence the
very
technique.
sneaky little buggers sometimes.
That's right. Exactly. But hence the technique. It's also like having a dog, a dog that is not trained. And so the dog keeps barking at other dogs. And so some people just, deal with that. They just go, oh, my dog keeps barking at other dogs. And some people get stressed by it. Some people, it doesn't bother them. But the truth is, they are still able to train the dog. They may not know how yet, but they are able, they have the power to reach out for help, to learn, to find out the techniques, to go to training classes with their dog. So it's not that, oh, I'm stuck with this shadow or this anything else. It's that, okay, what direction am I going to go in? All right, great question, Janine. Thank you for that. Hello, little Janines. All right.
Little shorts.
Little shorts, yes. Well,
they're about to go to their mom, so that's good.
Yeah. All right, and Swasti. Hi, Swasti.
Hi.
Hey, sweetie, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
So today, I've been applying to so many different kind of like things to do in this gap year. So I applied to one kind of volunteering thing, and it was like gardening.
It was what? You broke up there a little bit.
Oh, sorry. It was helping with like gardening or something, but like I'm not very interested in kind of gardening. So, I just kind of sent an email like, yeah, I can't. I applied and then realized it was gardening. And then, sorry, I'm not really good at this. But then she comes back to me and I said, one of the reasons I gave was because I have tutoring on the same day. So it's on a Thursday. And then she replies back and she says, we have clients we need for tutoring. And I said, if you're interested in more, and like one of the things I really wanted to do during this time was to get involved in more tutoring. And I was like, wow, I did not see that coming. All the way from like helping with trees and gardening to getting an offer for kind of like helping to tutor, like do more of that. And I just thought, whoa, that's amazing. So I was very, very excited about that. But like it hasn't been finalized, but it's still exciting to know that that's there.
And that is such a perfect example of how we don't know how. So just because you can't see how from where you are doesn't mean there isn't a way. And that's a beautiful example of it. And Steve and I were actually just talking about that this morning, that idea of, for people to have the end result without knowing the how. And so when you go on vacation, you don't know how the plane is going to get there or anything. You just know that's where I want to go. So that is a beautiful example of an unexpected, surprising how. Thank you for sharing, Swasti, and well done you.
Thank you. But a question I had today was that, so my dad always says to me that like you're not confident when you speak to people, because my dad believes that, you can probably hear him in the background, but he's always in work meetings and he's always shouting because he thinks that shouting is the way to sound confident. So because I don't shout, he says you're not confident and people don't understand you. And my mum says people don't understand you because you speak too fast. Whenever they say that, I always get very, very, very like annoyed because I don't see that in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like, is that just like a not unwillingness to listen, or do you think that too?
All right. So so first of all, I have to say that I understand everything you say. So to me, you sound confident and you speak very clearly. So of course, now two things. First of all, everything they say is coming through their filters. So things people say may or may not be true. Either way, it's through their own filters. So we can't take everything someone says as, necessarily true. It'll depend on what filters they have and what references they have, right? That's number one. And number two, what you're aiming for is, it's not about whether you agree or not. It's about how you're feeling about it. So if it triggers you, then you want to change it because of the emotions. And because it indicates there are references back there that are affecting you in who knows what kind of ways. You want to get to the point where when someone says, you don't shout enough, or you're speaking too fast, and what we want you to do is shout very slowly, or whatever that is, then you want to be at the point where you are able to hear that and feel no emotion. And you're able to go, really? I haven't noticed that. And you're able to look at it and think either, oh, they have a point, or, yeah, I don't think so. But there's no trigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Because you can't separate the useful from the unuseful suggestions, criticisms, feedback, while you're triggered.
Okay.
All right. So we can look at it then and go, so what's wrong with them saying that?
I don't know, but I like to believe that I am confident. Well, I'm not like that confident. I was used to fake confidence before because I always wanted to be confident. And now I feel like that's coming more naturally just because of all the work and just like staying calm and things. Yeah.
So here's something also to bear in mind. What public figures or just people are confident and speak quietly, or speak, so not shouting? There's plenty of them.
Nobody comes to mind. Probably there's she's called V, but she's got she's on YouTube and on Instagram, and she's achieved a lot. Like, she does public speaking and stuff. She's only 22. She's met Obama's wife, and she's done a lot of things. But yeah, she speaks quietly but is confident too.
Right. And so, and it is, like you say, it's an old, it's a misperception that you have to raise your voice to be confident. And that's like children, naturally throw tantrums to make a difference, to try and get somebody to pay attention. But the truth is, if you go very quiet and you pause and you say,
people listen to you, to try and understand,
Right. And I used to use, and that works in parenting big time. So, people shout at the kids and everything. And if I wanted to get my son's attention, I would go, you know what? And then I'd stop, and he'd and then I'd tell him what I want to tell him. So it's that drawing in, but that's not the automatic instinctive reaction or the instinctive way of trying to get someone's attention. It's natural to try and be louder or whatever. And so people think that that's the way to get attention, but it's actually not. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And so one very close example of someone who's confident but speaks quietly is Steve.
Yeah.
So, I go up and down. Sometimes I speak quietly, sometimes I speak louder, but Steve is generally very much gentler and calmer and quieter, but he's still very confident.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people, if you start, thinking and paying attention, you'll find there are politicians, there are celebrities, there are all kinds of people, trainers even, and speakers who have that calm way of speaking. And the thing is that as long as you're feeling the confidence, then it doesn't matter whether you're, it'll just come naturally, whether it's louder or softer or faster or slower, and it probably will vary. So the big takeaway is whatever they are seeing and experiencing and then saying is coming from their own references and their own fears and beliefs and experiences.
Okay. So yeah, so speaking quietly, just like realizing that speaking quietly is the actual way.
As long as you're feeling it. That's the thing. So, and of course, the way to do that is get into your superpower state. Is be in that superpower state as much as you can. And then it's going to come naturally for you to feel confident. And then however you speak is how you speak. It doesn't matter. It'll be natural and authentic to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that. Yeah, the authentic self that you talk about. Like before, it was just an abstract concept. I didn't really understand it. Now I'm getting it. Like this desire to connect with others and kind of like find opportunities to help people. Yeah, I see it.
Good. And the other thing, I think I've said this before, but it's worth saying it again, is that desire, that innate desire to help others is our second most powerful driver as humans. It's natural, it's automatic in humans to want to help others, that altruistic driver. The only thing that overrides it is the survival state. And most people are living in the survival state most of the time. That's the only reason why so many people aren't automatically helping others, don't have that drive, because they've got the stress chemicals in their system. And of course, survival is more important, because if you don't survive, you won't be around to help anybody. So that's why that happens. But as you start bringing those stress chemicals down and you start, and I was saying this just this morning to someone, as you start bringing those stress chemicals down and you start feeling better and happier, there's that, and safer, there's that automatic desire and drive to help others. And that's a wonderful thing. And that's what changed in my life, because I remember people going, oh, helping others. And I was going, I need to, I don't have any money. I can't pay my bills. I'm sick. I'm this, that, and the other. And I was full of stress chemicals, and all I could focus on was trying to fix my problems. But then as I changed my life, the stress chemicals came down. I felt happier. Now it's the very best thing in the world is helping others. I just adore it. I adore doing this all day.
And we love you and appreciate you for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. And we love you too. All right, sweetheart. So was that it for today for you?
Yeah, that's been really helpful.
And well done. I am so proud of you. And I feel like you're my daughter. And I'm very, very, very proud of you. Good.
Oh, thank you.
Very good. And Sadia, hello, Sadia. How are you today?
Hi, Odille, everyone. I feel much better than yesterday. So I'm grateful for that. And also, I love your tips on Facebook. They are really helpful, as I sometimes miss your tips on my newsletter. Yeah. And I don't know, I like listening to your voice. And one thing I found useful is that I downloaded the recording on the website. Yes. And I put them as an alarm clock, like every hour. It reminds me to practice my superpower.
Very good. Good idea. So just for anybody who's watching this who isn't aware of it, what Sadia is referring to is the little MP3 recordings of the superpower exercise. And you can get those from the page on our website that has all these recordings on it. So good job, Sadia.
And I was even wondering, is it possible to do one for the allowing technique?
I'm sure, yes. Of course.
That is so helpful, like reminding us like to go into our support. It's so easy sometimes to just, go with worries and, forget about practicing it. So having it as a alarm clock, it's just a good reminder, like every hour to just slow down the racing mind.
That is so great. So putting an alarm in your phone for every hour or whatever you can manage, if it's just 3 times a day or whatever, every hour is really good because that'll intensify that progress for you as well. So thank you, Sadia, for that suggestion. Very good.
Yeah.
And I know it will help others as well. And do you have any questions for today?
Yes, I was wondering actually, when we have different issues and we have lots of references for them. So, and would you say that it's something that you would recommend to work on different issues at the same time, and change the reference and rehearse the stories? Because sometimes I feel like I have so many things to change, and I know if it's a good idea to change everything in a day and rehearse it. So
It will depend on the individual and the timing of it, and exactly what those issues are and what challenges you're dealing with in your daily life as you go as well. It's going to vary from person to person. I can say that there's nothing wrong with dealing with more than one, addressing more than one, if that feels comfortable and good. So you don't want to overwhelm yourself. And so what you want to do is, and I posted this a while ago actually as well, is it's actually a quote from Ray Higdon that says, and I can't remember the exact, if you're not being consistent, lower your goals. So if you say, okay, I'm going to work on these 5 things, I'm going to change these 5 memories, let's say, and you aren't able to change and practice them every day, then rather work on one. Rather do a smaller amount of anything. This goes for any goals you have in your life. Rather do a smaller amount every day than try and do a lot and not be able to keep it up. Or even if you are able to keep it up, be in that overwhelmed or stressed state, because it's the way you're feeling that's making the difference to everything. So I would say, pick one, and if that feels good, and then if it feels good to add another one, do that. There's certainly nothing wrong with it, as long as it's not feeling stressful and overwhelming. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Very good. And also reminding yourself that what you're always aiming for is that your whole childhood was wonderful. Your whole childhood is filled with love, compassion, kindness, affection, safety, encouragement, acknowledgement, support, and all of that. So when in doubt, just do your whole childhood like that. And when I say your whole childhood, you don't have to go separately. Just imagine, imagine that feeling in your childhood, and just create a new memory of you're with your parents and they're hugging you and they love you. So you can always go back to just that simple thing. How does that help?
Yes, amazing.
Good. Very good. You're very welcome, sweetie. Good job.
Well, I actually have another question, as I see that there's nobody after me, so I was thinking about asking it. I have an issue fighting with friends. I have a global feeling for something I am addressing right now, but I do not have some kind of references. All I have in my head is what people are saying about it, and I cannot know where in my childhood I did feel that. So, well, globally, I would when you have challenges fighting a reference, what would you say we do for it? And yeah.
Okay, good. Let me just make sure that I've got that straight. So you've got you people are talking about something, and you have a general feeling about it, but you can't find that feeling in your childhood?
No. For example, I have a feeling of, well, I received something, for example, I didn't ask for, and I feel like I do not deserve it. And the global thing that I have in my mind is okay, if you have that, you have to work for it. If you haven't worked for it, you do not deserve it. So I do not really have, a reference for it. I just have ideas and stuff in my head. So I was wondering, where do I start with that? And usually when we can't find references for how we feel, so where do we start to change, the thing to make it positively correct?
Yes, very good, Sadia. This is a great example. Okay, so I want you to think about the thing you received, whatever that was, and that feeling of I don't deserve it, and you're supposed to work for this. You can feel that now.
Well, yes, like I have it all the time, and I just it
Good.
feels yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. And so now I want you to home in on the physical sensation of that feeling. So you can leave the meaning, and we're not going to try and change it. It's okay to feel that. And just home in on the physical sensation of that feeling. Can you do that? And allow it to be there. It's okay to feel it. How does that stay the same? Does it change?
Just a little bit.
So you're allowed to feel it. There's no need to change it. There's no need to stop it. It's okay. All right, you got that?
Mm-hmm. But I feel like one part of me is resistant, like just want to change it. And like for me, it's really the big issue, like not wanting to feel it what I feel.
Yes, and that's why this allowing technique is so important. Because so this is what's happening in real time. So you feel the negative thing or the thing you want to change, and as you judge it, as you label it and judge it and think, I mustn't feel that, I want to change it, what's happening physiologically, literally in your brain and body is you're pumping stress chemicals into your system, which is just going to make that feeling stronger. Does that make sense? So yes, you want to change it, but while you are judging it, it's like you're leaving the stress chemical tap running. So you want to, knowing intellectually that you will change it, you want to switch off the stress chemicals tap and switch on the feel-good chemicals tap. And the way to start to do that and bring those stress chemicals down is to take your foot off the pressure, take your foot off the accelerator and allow. So you're not pushing, you're not pressing, putting any pressure on. You're going, okay, we're going to, oh, I know, a good analogy. If your car gets stuck in the mud, the more you rev the engine, the more the wheels bury the car into them, the more those wheels turn and dig and dig and dig until you get really stuck. So pushing the accelerator is not going to help you get out of it. You have to do something else. So you have to, in the first instance, allow the car to be in the mud for the moment, right? And that'll take your foot off the accelerator. Then you can get out of the car and you can call the AA, or you can get some help to push it, or however you'll get, but pushing that accelerator is never going to get you out. Does that help to explain it?
Yeah.
That's why we want to make sure, that's why we want to prioritize that feeling of allowing, because it's all about chemicals. All right, so as you allow that, that's okay. It's fine to feel it and so on. Now, the next thing is that feeling of I don't deserve. So let me ask you this first of all, how do you know that you're supposed to work to get whatever this is? Where does that, how do you know that? Maybe it's not true.
Well, because I was supposed to do something, like for example, I asked for extra time. I didn't ask for not having to give it like anyway, and like I had like usually this is how it works, and I received that. It's kind of I didn't deserve it. I don't know. It's like.
And that's okay. It's okay. All right. So what's wrong with you receiving whatever it is if you don't deserve it? So let's say you don't deserve it, but you get it anyway. What's wrong with that?
It's guys, someone did me a favor. It's like I don't know, this feeling of it's just a favor. You do not deserve it. You do not have any merit for it.
Very good. So we're drilling down now. So what's wrong with someone doing you a favor? What does it mean if someone does a favor for you?
I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, is it my ego talking? I don't know which voice is talking. I can't find like that.
And that's okay. That's all right. And now let's go back to your childhood and let's look there to find out anything to do with people doing each other favors, either yourself or you witnessed or you heard about, anything to do with people doing favors, being indebted, not deserving, anything like that. And it may have nothing to do with the same topic. It may have nothing to do with the topic that you're currently experiencing.
I was I'm always amazed by this. Like I was not thinking about it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, yeah.
You got something?
Yes.
Good job. All right. So go to that now. And approximately how old were you? And we can do this no content, but just give me an approximate age.
I think I was probably 8 or 7.
Perfect. Perfect. So 7 or 8-year-old Sadia. And so go there now. Remember that now. And how strong are the negative emotions? So 0 to 10, how strong are those negative emotions? Just very briefly.
10.
You got it?
Yes.
Good. Did you say 9?
No, I said 10.
10. Okay, I beg your pardon. I'm cheating you out of 1. Okay, so let's pause on that now. And let's go to your favorite color, which I seem to remember is yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So take a deep breath and imagine being surrounded by that beautiful shade of yellow. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Feel the feeling of the yellow, how lovely it is. And now I want you to give that gorgeous little cheetah a hug. Can you do that?
Yes.
Very good job, Sadia. Perfect, sweetheart. Now press pause on that. And let's go back to that memory. So 7 or 8 years old. And the negative emotions, it was a 10. Where is it now?
7.
7. Good job. Press pause on that. Let's go back to the cheetah and the surrounded by the color yellow. So you and your cheetah are surrounded by the color yellow. And notice how lovely it feels, that connection between you and your cheetah. Your cheetah absolutely adores you. It's pure, unconditional love. You got that? Very good. Let's pause on that. Let's go back to that memory, 7 or 8 years old. And the negative emotions, it was a 7. Where is it now?
5.
5. Good job. Press pause on that.
5.
Good. That's okay. Yeah. So press pause on that. Let's go back to the cheetah and the yellow. And notice how soft the cheetah's fur is. She's so cuddly and sweet and beautiful. You got that?
Yeah.
Very good. And what do you love most about that cheetah? Or what's one of the things you love most about her?
Yeah, the softness and like they're beautiful.
Yes, they are. Gorgeous. Okay, and press pause on that. And let's go back to that memory. So 7 or 8 years old. And the emotions were a 5. Where is it now?
It's like a 1.
Good. Very good. Perfect. So press pause on that. And let's go back. Let's go back to the cheetah and the yellow. And how wonderful that is. And does the cheetah have a collar on? A beautiful diamante collar or some other kind of collar? Or not?
Oh yeah, I like these dog
Yes.
friends.
Very good. Good job. And now press pause on that and let's go back to that memory. Now the memory of 7 or 8 years old, any emotions left there? Good.
No.
Good job, Sadia. Very good job, sweetheart. And now I want you to change that memory. So imagine it differently, whatever would have been perfect. So something fun, something the opposite, positive and empowering. And if you need some suggestions, let me know. You can bring the cheetah into it if you like. You got something?
Yes, yes.
Good, very good. So now practice that new memory. Practice it as much as you can. And those alarms that you're putting in your phone, for today, every time, or for tomorrow, because I know it's later over there, of course, for the next 24 hours, let's say, whenever that alarm goes off, do the superpower exercise and then practice that new memory, just that one. All right?
Yes. I want to say thank you because I think this one is really going to change my perspective on how I see people, because the memories like that was attached to that, it was people asking in the street, like, if you ask for money you don't deserve, like you do not deserve it. So I think that was also affecting the way I would see people that would ask for money they don't have and things like that. So practicing that will not only change mine, I think, but the way I see people that are in need. So thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm so excited for you and so proud of you. Good job, Sadia. And thank you for sharing it here because, again, it will help so many others. Very good. All right. So now, Steve, are there any questions?
Yeah, we have a couple. We'll see how we move through. But one from earlier, I'm going to read it out, and it's from Natasha, who is off camera just because of internet connection. But the question is, doing law of attraction on yourself, how does it impact other family members since they are not doing it? Since they have their own path, but how do you do law of attraction as a family unit?
Very good question. Very good question.
She can unmute audio if you want to.
All right. So Natasha, I'm going to answer that, and then if you feel free to unmute yourself if I'm not answering the question as clearly, or you have more questions, or you need more clarification. All right. She says her internet is bad. Yeah, no problem. All right. So with the law of attraction and with everything else, we cannot change someone else, as we know, and we can't change their experience. But what we can do, two things. We can contribute. So if someone's cold, you can offer them a coat, and you can let them know where the coats are, or that coats exist. And then, of course, it's up to them whether they choose to or not. That's number one. And number two, we can change our own experience of the person. So this is why we focus on the touchstone, on the end result, the feeling of the end result, because then we're not trying to make the details specific. And it means that if we are focusing on the end result the feeling of the end result without the details, and we are loving those people unconditionally, and we can share what we know or whatever we can offer, but if they say no, or they're not interested, or they don't believe it, or anything like that, that's absolutely okay. And then we still love them anyway. We shine light into that darkness. Then we will end up experiencing whatever that is, whether they experience it or not. And so they may change, or they may suddenly feel inspired and do the same thing, or they may have the same experience but from a different perspective, or with a different thing, or anything like that. So, for example, Steve and I have a lot in common. We love this work. There's a lot of things that we both love, but we also have things that are completely separate. So I love writing, being online, all of that kind of thing. Steve doesn't enjoy it so much. Steve loves gardening and woodworking, and I can think of nothing worse. But that's okay, because we each get to do what we love, and we each get to enjoy what we enjoy, and we each get to enjoy the fact that the other one is enjoying something else. So when Steve goes and does his woodworking or his gardening, I love that because I know how much he loves it. And so it's a wonderful feeling. And that is how different, loved ones or a family can have different desires, different, details, but still have that same feeling of love, enjoyment, unconditional love, and that kind of thing. So I hope that answers your question, but Natasha, feel free to unmute.
Yeah, hi. I hope the internet does stick while I'm asking the question. So yeah, so I felt a little guilty today because there was a situation where it was bad. The situation was bad, but I was feeling good, right? But my husband wasn't feeling that good.
Okay.
In that situation. And I started feeling guilty that I was feeling good because the situation was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not feeling good.
Okay. All right. And so how did you interact with him under those circumstances?
Well, I just hugged him, but I felt that he needed way more than just that.
What do you needed?
What do I think he needed? I don't know. But I just ended up feeling guilty that I wasn't in as upset a state that he was because of all the work that I've been doing.
Yes. And this is such a powerful example, Natasha. Thank you so much for sharing this and for clarifying it, because this is a very common challenge for everyone who makes, who changes their programming and changes how they becomes happier and healthier. This is one of the challenges. And so I think a lot of you know that my mum died February 2 years ago, and then my brother died just this August. And I had a similar kind of thing where I felt like, I should be more upset. But I wasn't, because of my beliefs and because of the changes I've made and because I focus on the love instead of the loss. There was something there, but I didn't cry when my brother died. For example. And so they were, luckily Steve is the same, and I'm very lucky my sister is similar as well. But for any friends, anybody, so I'm aware of it. Now, here's the answer. What everybody wants, including your husband, whether he knows it or not, what everybody wants is love, compassion, and reassurance, and to feel safe. And we are much better, we're much more effective in giving that love, compassion, and reassurance when we are feeling good than when we're feeling bad. When we're feeling bad, it's like, we haven't put the mask on our own face, so we're trying to help others and we're not doing well. So the way to look at it is this analogy. If you imagine the person, like your husband or whoever is in this situation, is in a quagmire or a quicksand, and they're struggling in the quicksand, and you're on the outside. Now, you getting into the quicksand with them to try and help them out is not going to work because
that's
right? Yep. So what you want to do, but you're also being on the outside doesn't mean you're going to walk away or that you don't care. You're still going to help from the outside, but you're going to throw them a branch or even your hand or that sort of thing. But you have to keep your own feet on the ground so that you are in a position to help them out if they're willing to be helped out.
That's right.
So the way to do that in a practical way is to, be kind and comforting and compassionate and reassuring, but allowing that person to feel whatever they're feeling. So without the feeling of, I should be feeling it, and without the feeling of, I need to stop them from feeling it, I need to make them feel better, just do that allowing thing. And you can use the allowing exercise in the middle of it. So while this person is upset and you're not, you can just feel that allowing and allow them How does that sound?
Right. Okay.
Good. And so there's that. And then, of course, the second piece of this is the reference for feeling guilty, because there'll be a reference in your childhood for that as well, where, you know, I should be, or I shouldn't be, or, and that feeling of guilt is coming from your childhood, and it may have nothing to do with the same topic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sure there is something.
Yeah. I think most of us have references for guilt. it's a very popular one. So then you can do the allowing of the guilt. Just feel it. Where is it in my body? How does it feel? What's the sensation? And allow it to be there. It's okay to feel that guilt. It's okay. I don't need to judge it. I don't need to change it. I don't need to make it go away. Just allow it to be there. And then you can start thinking, okay, where in my childhood did I feel the same guilt, but it may be a different topic? And take the first thing that comes to mind. So it may seem to be, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's okay. If it's negative, it needs changing anyway. Right. And then change it to the opposite, positive and empowering, and just keep doing that until you can remember that situation with your husband, and you can feel just compassion. All right. And then you'll know, okay, so now the reference changed.
Okay, good. That's really good. Quick question, just to follow up. I should just be, kind, supportive, all the good things, and continue to maintain in that state. And that would help him, or is there something else that I can do for him?
All right, good question. And so I do want to clarify, you want to be kind and compassionate inside yourself, for yourself first.
Yes, that's right.
And then allow it to overflow. So that's good. And then, it doesn't mean we have to, it doesn't mean that we're going, oh, I'm so happy about life and that. We can be kind and compassionate, like I say, from that feel-good state, and allowing the superpower to fill him exactly as he is, without him needing to change. That's going to be the thing that helps him. Now, let me clarify that. It will help him if he's open to being helped on an unconscious level.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. So it'll, if a person is is too frightened to change their stuff, or their subconscious is protecting them by making them feel whatever, that of course that's their stuff, and we can't do anything about that. But we can, on an energetic level, electromagnetic level, quantum level, we can affect other people as long as they're open to that. And just on that topic of electromagnetic, and I know I've said this before, but it's worth saying again, the electromagnetic field of the heart is, I think it's 7 times stronger than the electromagnetic field of the brain, and it extends as far beyond the body as they've been able to measure, which was, I believe, 4 feet. Wow. This means that whenever you are within 4 feet of someone, the electromagnetic fields of your heart are overlapping or interacting. And so this is like a, tuning fork or whatever. This is why you want to be the strongest vibration in the room. So getting into that superpower state of feeling love, feeling unconditional love for yourself first and everything else, the stronger you are, the more you practice, the stronger that gets. And the better you become at holding that state, you're overlapping with other people all the time. And then rather be the stronger one and affect their vibration than the other way around.
That's perfect. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome, sweetheart. Good job.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Just a quick hop in on that statement. Even though we can't change somebody else, doing the work and being in that state and sending that love, my experience, from personal experience, I have seen people in my immediate world change who I didn't feel were really on board with wanting to change. So it's like, yes, we can't change somebody else, but being that strongest person in the room, that strongest energy in the room, does have an impact. We just don't know how it's going to impact.
Absolutely.
And then I would say that we can take a look at time, but Janine has a question which I think kind of serendipitously or synchronistically had kind of follows on the heels of what you and Natasha were just talking about.
All right, great. Janine, I unmuted you. I think you have text. There we go.
I am happy to ask it tomorrow though, if we're over time.
Oh, it's okay. That's all right.
Is it a question? Well, I've got an experience about feeling guilty about being away from my nephews in Australia, and the lockdown is making it more amplified because I can't really get home.
Yeah.
Which was my deal to be able to be in Europe.
Right.
My nephews are in Australia, so it's about as far away as they can get. So I that idea of allowing, I find I get quite sad and feel quite guilty about the fact that I'm not there.
Yes, yes. And so what's wrong with not being there?
Well, they love it when I'm there and they wish that I would come home.
Yes. And so the fact that you can't, what effect is that having on them?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when I'm home, they say that.
Yeah.
And they feel that. But then if I use my logical brain, they're just being kids and off in their own worlds, being very present.
Right. And so what you can do, so that will be coming from your childhood, but in the meantime, what you can aim for is the unconditional love. Is whenever you think of them, and I do this with my son because my son lives in another country as well. And whenever you think of them, when you find yourself wishing or feeling guilty or anything, fill yourself with that unconditional love and send that unconditional love to them. Loving them exactly as they are, where they are, no matter what happens. And what that does is that empowers you. Because if there's nothing you can do about the situation, if there's something you could do about the situation, of course you would do it. But since it's beyond your control to do anything physically, this is something you can do. And this is more empowering and powerful than if you got on a plane and went there.
Yes, which I usually do, but I can't now.
That's right. So it's a great opportunity.
There's some abandonment stuff in there. It just
I bet there is.
Surprise.
Yeah. So there you go. So, and now you've got something to aim for. So that's what you want to aim for, and then use the allowing and then change any references.
So Janine, because I know you're kind of relatively new to this, when you start with the allowing, feel the feeling of that guilt. So just allow it to be there, offer it some hospitality, be in that space of starting to have a dialogue with it, so that as you're allowing it to be there, it will on its own time start to bring up those references that are back there in the past. You'll start to, on its own time, it'll give you that connection to where you felt that guilt in the past. And it's probably going to be, it may not be an identical situation. So the guilt may have something, those guilty feelings could be related to something else. But this is just your current dance partner for allowing yourself to feel the guilt. So.
Thank you, Steve. Very good. All right, so let's do the targeting. And in fact, sorry, before we do the targeting, I just want to share this because I've just seen this in the chat here. I haven't read all the chat, but I thought this caught my eye, and I think it's useful for others as well. So Swasti has shared that the way she got herself to remember to do the exercise throughout the day. She says, I did this with pens in the beginning. So she's referring to Sadia's idea of putting it in your phone so you can do that as well. She said, I did this with pens in the beginning. You have 12 pens in one pot and move them to another pot every time you do the superpower. And I love that. And I thought that might be useful for others as well. And you can do that if you don't have the pens, you can do it with pebbles or marbles or anything you like. All right, great idea. Thank you for sharing that, Swasti. All right, so, or do it with Steve's chocolate chips. Yes. Very good. All right, everyone, let's do the targeting. So Steve, if you would send me the targets, please, and take a deep breath and go into your superpower state, however you normally do that. Using your word or phrase or your anchor, or focusing in on everything you love about your subject. Very good. Start to feel your heart opening, that expansion feeling in your chest. Allowing that light or energy to shine out from you. And then allow that light or energy to spread down to your toes, up to the top of your head and out to your fingertips. So you're now full of that light, that energy, that love. Very, very good. And allow that light or energy to fill each of the 50 trillion cells that make up your body. Love each cell just for existing. Good job. And imagine that each cell has the ability to do the same. Very good. And now allow that light or energy to fill your subject. And then imagine your subject doesn't want to be with you, or doesn't have the qualities that you love and appreciate, and keep them filled with that light, that energy anyway. Very, very good. And let's go to Lisa. Fill Lisa with that same light, that energy. From the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips, love Lisa just for existing. Very good. And allow that light or energy to overflow from Lisa and fill everyone's financial success, whether they're successful or not. Whatever those results may be, love it anyway, shining this light into any darkness, loving everyone's finances no matter what. Very good. And now to Janine. Fill Janine with the same light, this energy. From the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips, love Janine just for existing. And now allow that light or energy to fill Janine's nephews in Australia. From the tips of their toes to the tops of their heads and out to their fingertips, love those nephews exactly as they are and no matter what. Just for existing. And love the fact that Janine can't visit at the moment. Shine light into that. Love it all anyway. And love the guilt. No matter what, whether the guilt changes or not, love it all exactly as it is, shining that light. Very, very good. And now to Sadia. Fill Sadia with this same light, this energy. From the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips, love Sadia just for existing. Very good. Good job. And now to Swasti. Fill Swasti with this same light, this energy. from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love, Sadia, just for existing. Now to Swasti. Fill Swasti with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love, Swasti, just for existing. Good job. Very good. And now to Natasha. Fill Natasha with that same light, that energy, from the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love, Natasha, just for existing. And allow that light, that energy to overflow from Natasha and fill her husband. From the tips of his toes to the top of his head and out to his fingertips. Love Natasha's husband just for existing, no matter what. Exactly as he is. Love him exactly as he is. Very, very good. And now to Carrie. Fill Carrie with this same light, this energy. From the tips of her toes to the top of her head and out to her fingertips. Love, Carrie, just for existing. Very good. And then, whether Carrie does have COVID or not, she may have COVID, whether she has COVID or not, fill her with this light, this energy anyway. Loving Carrie, whether she has COVID or not, loving the COVID, whether it's there or not, shining this light into any darkness, loving it all. Very, very good. And now to all those off camera or watching the recording, fill everyone with this light, this energy, this love, no matter what, loving them just for existing, shining light into any darkness. Good job. And then someone who's off camera, who's dealing with overwhelm at work and worry about a sibling with COVID, fill all of that with that light, that energy, that love. Fill that person with that light and energy. Love them just for existing. And then imagine that light or energy overflowing from them, filling their work, the overwhelm, no matter what, shining that light into any darkness, filling their sibling with that same light, that energy, no matter what happens with the COVID, loving it all anyway. That's where the power is. And surge. Very good. All right, you can open your eyes. Well done, everyone. Good job. There's some very good stuff here today. So well done for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing, to those of you who share. And it's lovely to have all of those who just come and listen in as well. We love seeing you here anyway. We love seeing your names. And look after yourselves. You're all very, very welcome. Thank you for the messages in the chat. And we will see you same place, same time tomorrow. And look after yourselves. Keep practicing. Sending you all lots of love. Unconditional, of course. Bye-bye now.